October 27th, 2025. I was randomly roaming the Steam store when I stumbled upon a game that had just been released. I was immediately struck by the art style and, as I often am, got trapped by the vibe it seemed to communicate. Besides, I love mystery solving. So, I got it, played it, streamed it, and... well, welcome to the Seance of Blake Manor. I'm going to try and keep this video as spoiler free as can be. Anyways, Blake Manor is the third game ever released by its devs, Spooky Doorways. It was edited by Raw Fury, who's famous for editing games such as Kingdom, Tales Noir, Cathy Rain, or more recently, Blueprints. The game occurs in 1897 in a remote area of Connemara, Western Ireland. We play as Declan Ward, a firefighter turned private investigator who's asked to investigate the disappearance of Evelyn Dean, a woman he seemingly has some history with. He ends up at Blake Manor, a private land turned hotel owned by the Blake family, heirs to a Cromwellian knight who conquered some of Ireland, who, as far as I know, didn't actually exist. At the manor, the guests are all somewhat linked to the spiritual world, as they all came to participate in a mysterious seance. But that's not today. That's in 2 days. We have 2 days to try and learn as much as possible about Miss Dean. But to do so, we have to learn about everyone else. At first this comes as off-putting. Why do I care about all these people? I don't. Well, I shouldn't. After some investigating, our character finds a reason to want to stop the seance, and to do so, he must convince everyone not to attend.
And as for this place, news of our plans has turned my stomach. I've had enough mysticism for this trip. I shall be sitting the seance.
Oh, that's one person saved.
Now,
what?
if you'll excuse me,
French guy, that's all
I
I
have
needed.
notes to make in my quarters.
Each action you do costs at least 1 minute, and time moves forward that way. Therefore, time is a resource you will use and have to pay attention to. Sadly, I found that this system, although a very good idea, was extremely frustrating. I used my time rather well, making sure I only used it for specific actions, which ended up being somewhat useless because of the second mechanism. Characters and events will be at different places, different times. Each of them has their own timetable, and that is great. However, due to the confusing nature of what the game expects the player to do, I ended up being stuck on character storylines I had solved on my own hours before the game allowed me to unlock them, making me feel like I was doing something wrong, although I wasn't.
Well, that's the thing. Like,
Oh my days.
I'm confused about, because I'm like, I don't think I've had any opportunities to help these people. I can't help this guy because I'm missing 2 characters. I have a feeling that there's more to the game after the seance.
As I said, the game has expectations from the player, from the way the player is going to move forward, what the player is going to find, how they're going to find it. It gives the illusion of freedom, which is always an illusion in every game, and that is fine. But everything is actually extremely railroaded. And because I didn't understand the game's expectations in terms of actions, I wasted time despite understanding the mysteries very well.
Ah, and then I was supposed to discover this.
This is why I had to rush storylines in my last few hours of gameplay.
Hello. Hi, how's it going? I know what you've done!
No.
And that's a true shame because the storylines are really enjoyable. And I've been saying storylines all this time because each character has its own, and they're all interesting in their own way, each talking about a different type of culture or esoteric culture or spiritual culture. I find that they're rather well written, and you're really pulled in by witnessing characters talk to one another, listen to what they're saying, interpret what they're doing. That was really fun, and definitely a strength that the game has to offer.
How are you feeling today, Miss Mon?
Oh, I'm I suppose I could be better.
Liar,
This
liar,
morning's
bitch, liar.
cards suggest our preparations will not go unused. This isn't.
I think that would be best for you to judge.
That's why to me it's so sad that the game's expectations are so railroaded. As I've said, the illusion of freedom is what it is, an illusion, it's what it's always going to be. And that's fine, but how do we work with that? I'm not sure I have the answer, but I know that I've felt a lot of frustration coming from the Seance of Blake Manor. We don't all think the same way, and because I had understood and explored storylines my own way, it was only all the more frustrating that the game refused to give me the conclusion that I had made on my own anyways, just because I didn't click the right item to unlock the chain of events.
Damn.
Oh god. Oh god.
What the hell, wait?
I've never looked at the paintings! Wait, has she been the one I've been seeing around? I never looked at the paintings.
And the man is he's telling himself to like get a grip on himself, like this is his first paranormal event.
Tutorial moment.
All in all, there's loads of problems with the gameplay, but it's mostly about the railroading, not the storylines. The game contradicts itself, creates its own weaknesses, and diminishes its own strength, which is a shame. I also didn't mention it yet, but there's a drawing minigame. And it's fun once or twice per drawing, but it does get old really fast. Not because it's bad, but because it's repetitive. As I said, I really enjoyed the game, despite its flaws. And the first thing I thought upon finishing it was, please, I beg you, make a film. You guys have it all. You have the visuals, you have the story, you have the voice actors and actresses. Make a film, or a show, whatever. If gameplay isn't your thing, and that's fine, and I don't mean to tell you that gameplay isn't your thing, because once again, the game was filled with great ideas, make a film. Animation and game making are much closer fields than we know. And a few weeks after I thought that and said that, I saw on Steam that the game had been chosen to be in the official selection in the Estetica Short Film Festival. Now, I didn't know of this festival, but it appears to be an international film festival held yearly in York, England since 2011. I don't know how that went for them, but I felt very excited for the devs because yes, clearly I'm not the only one who sees the potential. Please make a film, I am so behind you. I loved it all, but the gameplay that frustrated me and diminished the powers of the stories you had, of the actors you had. And if you make another game, and I hope you do still, try and find ways to not contradict yourself. It is very difficult in that type of game to allow a player to draw their own conclusion, because you're not a DM who's just listening in to what everybody's saying. Mystery games have to be railroaded. How do we make it not railroaded? I don't know. I'm not going to pretend I know. Either way, I hope that you all continue what you're doing. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing or following us on our Twitch channel, Ravenhaven Workshop. I will be so grateful to have you there. Also, consider supporting the devs. They've done a wonderful work on this and deserve all your attention. Now, this video was a first for me and is very unprofessional and whatnot, so, if you have any pieces of advice, I would love to hear them in the comments. Thank you so much.